1,000 Saudi troops have entered Bahrain as the government there struggles to contain the growing political unrest in the country. The United Arab Emirates is also sending 500 police officers. The move comes under a defence pact of the regional grouping, the Gulf Cooperation Council. But opposition leaders in Bahrain are saying it amounts to an invasion of the island kingdom. Gerald Tan has more.
Reinforcements roll in. Saudi troops representing the regional bloc of 6 Gulf nations enter Bahrain. An answer to government calls for help to enforce and restore order.
In fact, yesterday, grave assaults were perpetrated by outlaws, targeting security personnel, using Molotov cocktails, knives, swords and steel rods. These acts of vandalism prove beyond any doubt that these demonstrations are not peaceful at all.
The island kingdom is in the grip of political turmoil. Down with the regime, the protesters chant, digging their heels in the Pearl Roundabout at the heart of month-long rallies. They erect barricades across one of Manama's main transport arteries, effectively choking the financial district. An angry response to clashes with security forces.
At first we were only in this area, but the arrival of the riot police and their attack on these areas, our men have been forced to expand from this roundabout.
Sunday saw one of the most violent confrontations since a crackdown in February killed 7 people. Police firing tear gas, rubber-coated bullets and water cannon to disperse the demonstrators. But the crowds hold their ground, eventually overwhelming the police. The anti-government protesters are mainly Bahrain's Shia majority who want equal rights from the Sunni ruling family. They're demanding more parliamentary power and sweeping political reforms. In a bid to quell public discontent, the country's crown prince has issued a statement on state television, pledging his commitment to national dialogue. But pro-government politicians want more. They're pushing for the imposition of martial law, and the latest show of military solidarity could either dampen the resolve of the opposition or further strengthen it to devastating effect. Gerald Tan, Aljazeera.
To Libya now, where Gaddafi's forces have been continuing their assault on rebel positions. The western town of Zuwara has been the scene of fighting on Monday. Residents there say tanks have reached the centre of the town and Gaddafi forces are now in control. Warplanes have bombed the strategic city of Aljazeera, which lies between government strongholds and Benghazi. Meanwhile, G8 foreign ministers have arrived in Paris to discuss further action against Libya, and the UN Security Council has been holding more talks on a no-fly zone. Let's hear from Scott Heidler, who's at the UN in New York for us. So Scott, talk us through where this has got to with this discussion of the possible no-fly zone.
Yeah, we had a discussion today in front of the Security Council. This meeting was called by the Lebanese delegation on the Security Council. This is after, on Saturday, the Arab League voted to put forth the request to the Security Council that they issue a resolution. They pass a resolution for a no-fly zone over the Libyan skies. Now, there was about a 3-hour meeting. It's not as though there was a draft resolution or any piece of paper that came out of this meeting. As it was described to us, it was more kind of broad discussions about the ideas that would go into a no-fly resolution. And it sounds like, you know, you have some people who are definitely for it, the French and the British, who have actually drafted some wording for a resolution. They're obviously for it. The Lebanese are for it. We know that there's a little bit of resistance from the Russians and the Chinese. But right now it looks like the French and the British missions to the Security Council, they're going to be working on that draft resolution over the next couple of days. And as they told us, they wanted to get it to the Security Council for a vote as soon as possible.
And remind us what the main reservations are for people who don't like the idea of a no-fly zone.
Yeah, and particularly the Russians, and the Russian ambassador to the United Nations came out after this meeting today, again, 3-hour-long meeting, and he said, and I just want to read a couple of quotes for you, Vitaly Churkin, who is the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, he said his main concerns were rooted in who's going to implement the no-fly zone. He asked who's going to implement it, how is the no-fly zone going to be executed. without those details, he said, or answers, it's very hard for him, his delegation, he said, to make a responsible decision. So that task now is on the UK and the French missions to put together a draft resolution that deals with these issues, exactly who's going to implement this no-fly zone. And also we've heard on the sidelines of these discussions that once you even get someone, possibly NATO, an organization, a country, to patrol the skies over Libya, what are the engagement rules? In other words, if these aircraft are shot at from the ground, can they engage those ground targets? So it's a bit of a difficult situation to really spell out all the details, but right now the French and the UK missions are working on just that.
OK, Scott, thank you very much indeed for bringing us right up to date there from the United Nations.